All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Money Talk Tuesday. My name is Christine Callahan and I work in the Treasurer's Office of Economic Empowerment. We are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today. So thank you so much for everyone joining. To the next slide. All right, so just a little bit about the Office of Economic Empowerment. The Office of Economic Empowerment is a department within the Office of the Treasurer and Receiver General of Massachusetts, and we are tasked with supporting, advocating, and facilitating policies that empower all Massachusetts residents. Our programs, serve women, families, high school students, veterans, and seniors, and our priorities include financial education, closing the race and gender wage gap, racial equity, college affordability, and promoting STEM education. So just a disclosure, this is a Zoom webinar and it will be recorded. This recording may be uploaded onto a public website for future use. Any information shared through the questions functions will be anonymous, but please note, however, the chat record is subject to public record laws and as such is not anonymous. Housekeeping. As you can see, this is a webinar, not a meeting, so you will not be able to view the other participants, but we encourage all of the attendees in the audience to please communicate with the host or the panelists and use the Q&A throughout the entire webinar, and we will get to answer as many questions as we can. And at the end, please complete the post survey so we can continue to improve this program. And then if anyone has any questions, always feel free to email moneytalk@tre.state.ma.us. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. And before I introduce our panelists, I am going to launch our first poll. All right, so this question is just to get a sense of who is in the audience. So are you a veteran or veteran service provider? I'll give everyone just a few more minutes and then I will end the polling. So about 80% of our audience are veterans and 20% are veteran service providers. Thank you all to the veterans in the audience for your service. And before without further ado, I am going to introduce our panelists for today. We have Kate Schwartz from Veterans Upward Bound and Nick Sharetti from Veterans Upward Bound. And I'll pass it over to you both. Thank you for joining us today, Nick and Kate.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm just going to pull this presentation up real quick. Excellent. Can you see my screen? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
All right. So welcome, everyone. We're going to go through this veterans education benefits, how to pay for college as a veteran. We're going to cover a lot of good info in this webinar. Seeing that there was 80% veterans in the crowd, I think there's going to be a lot of valuable information for all of you looking to use your education benefits. So here's our Veterans Upward Bound team. You just met myself and Kate. Our other assistant director, Jen, is out on vacation this week, so it's just going to be the two of us handling the webinar today. So here's a picture of me from when I separated from the Army in 2018. The reason that I share this picture is I just want to let all the veterans in the audience know that I have firsthand experience using my VA education benefits. I use the post 9/11 GI Bill. I use the Yellow Ribbon Program. I used VA Work Study. So, I know how life-changing these benefits can be. And if you're someone who is looking to understand your benefits, that's what I'm here to do. And that's what Veterans Upward Bound is here to assist you with. So we're just going to go through a quick overview of what else Veterans Upward Bound offers besides the webinar that you're in attendance for today. In addition, we do offer remedial and refresher courses. Currently, all of those courses are online due to the pandemic. However, in the fall, we anticipate being able to hold classes in person again at Suffolk University. All of the courses are really designed and they're geared towards the AccuPlacer, which is what a lot of local community colleges and universities use for placement testing. So upon completion, you'll be better prepared and be testing at a college level when you enroll in school. Additionally, we help out with college applications. We offer other workshops. We offer one-on-one counseling to help you with, applying to school, applying for your VA education benefits, and we also offer tutoring services. Here's our agenda today. We got 7 sections. The first 2 are a little bit heavier on the content, so I'm going to stop at the end of each section and just see if we have any questions. So we're going to hop into our first section, which is the VA education benefits overview. Here's some quick stats to give you an idea of who's using benefits and who's not using benefits. In 2019, there were just short of 1 million veterans who used or reported using GI Bill benefits nationwide. However, when we look at just Massachusetts veterans, we see that only 41% of them, of Massachusetts veterans, Guardists and reservists, have reported using some form of VA or state education benefits through 2017. When we work with veterans, they often cite uncertainty of how their education benefits work. And this is unfortunate because, most of the VA education benefits have some sort of expiration date or, a basic period of eligibility. And if you let that time go by, you may miss out on these excellent life-changing benefits. So that's what Veterans Upward Bound is here for, to help you make sense of all of the benefits that you may qualify for. So there's this is probably something that really contributes to the confusion around VA education benefits. As you can see, I bolded 3 of the different chapters, or 3 different VA education benefits here, because they are the most commonly used, and we are going to only cover these 3 today. The reason for that is, post 9/11's the most popular right now, probably followed by VR&E, and then the Montgomery GI Bill is still being used. If you are someone who's looking to use Chapter 32, 35, 1606, or something else that we don't mention here, please reach out. We'd love to work with you one-on-one. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to cover all of them, so we got to hit the big ones. But again, if you're looking to use 32, 35, or any other benefit, please reach out. We're more than happy to help you navigate your benefits. So there's a lot of similarities and differences between the programs. There are things that make post 9/11 and VR&E similar. And then there are things that make them very different, like, from the way that you qualify for them, from the way that you pay out. And same thing with the Montgomery GI Bill. So you're going to see a lot of numbers on the next few slides. It's not too important to keep in mind the numbers, but it's more important to keep in mind the concepts. And that's something that'll really help you understand how the benefits work, how they pay out, and all that good stuff. So as I said, the post 9/11 GI Bill is overwhelmingly the most commonly used GI Bill right now. So we're going to start with that one. You can see here what the general requirements are. You have to have served at least 90 days of total active duty after 9/10/2001, or you could have been discharged with a service-connected disability after 30 days on active duty. But you must have an honorable discharge regardless. As you can see at the bottom, there is 2 separate guidelines for expiration. Unfortunately, those who separated prior to 2013, they have 15 years to use their benefit. For those who separated 1/1/13 or later, and who are currently discharging, fortunately for you, you have no expiration date to use your post 9/11 GI Bill. So the way that the VA pays out post 9/11 GI Bill depends on your time in service. And as you can see here, they rate it from 100% is anyone who served 36 months or more, so 3 years. And then from there, in 6-month increments, it goes down to 50%. Additionally, those who served that 30 continuous days on active duty and were discharged with a service-connected disability automatically are eligible for 100%. This is probably the most important number for any veteran who's looking to use the post 9/11 GI Bill, because this percentage is used to determine your tuition, your housing, your books, and everything else that is paid out to you in your school using the post 9/11 GI Bill. For the post 9/11 GI Bill, tuition and fees for public schools are completely covered. So if you're going to any of the UMass schools, any community college, Bridgewater State, Salem State, all of those schools, all of your tuition and fees will be covered under this program. However, for private or foreign schools, the VA will pay up to just over $25,000 per year, which is a national maximum. This is something that sometimes may discourage veterans from going to private schools, and for good reason, because we don't like to see veterans have to take out student loans when they've already got these incredible benefits. However, there are ways to fund the difference between this $25,000 and what a school like Suffolk University may charge. So there are programs that we will cover later on, but it's something to keep in mind if you are a veteran who's looking to go to a private school. As you may be familiar, the post-9/11 GI Bill also affords you a books and supply stipend. The maximum that you can receive is $1,000 per year, which averages out to about $41.66 per credit hour. However, keep in mind, back a few slides, if you are an 80% eligible veteran using the post-9/11 GI Bill, this $1,000 is actually $800 because every single benefit, every payment, every part of the program is subject to your percentage. So we're going to go through a quick example here. We're going to start in the fall 2021 semester, and we're going to say that the veteran is going to school full-time, taking 12 credits. To find out what that books and supply stipend is going to be, we just do a little quick math, 12 times the 4166, and it comes out to approximately $500. Keep in mind that since you've used $500, you have $500 remaining. For a veteran who's doing just a traditional fall and spring semester, they usually don't run into any problems. Typically, you get $500 in the fall, $500 in the spring. However, a lot of veterans do like to go to school year round. And there's multiple reasons for it. They want to finish their degree quicker. They're motivated to finish that degree and enter the workforce. And additionally, a lot of veterans are reliant on the housing allowance that you get through the post-9/11 GI Bill. So by taking winter and summer classes, it allows them to continue to collect that rent money. However, it's important to keep in mind that the book stipend will cap out at $1,000. And in this example, we're going to see that when the veteran goes to, they take a class in the winter semester, take 3 credit hours, they're going to use up approximately another $125 of their book stipend. And now they have $375 remaining. So keep that in mind when we go to school in spring. We're taking 12 credit hours, and normally that would afford us the same stipend as we got in the fall at $500. However, with only $375 remaining, that's the max that they're going to get paid in the spring, and they have no book stipend remaining. And then if this veteran wants to go to school in the summer and take a few more credit hours to make sure that they're finishing their degree, in a really efficient manner, regardless of how many classes they take, they will not get any book stipend. So it's just important to keep in mind and budget your book stipend, so to say. A big perk of the post-9/11 GI Bill is it does offer you a monthly housing allowance, which is very similar to BAH that all of us veterans are familiar with when we served. If you go to school full-time, which generally, it may vary from school to school, but generally it's 12 credits, your training time is considered 100%, and you get 100% of the housing allowance that you are eligible for. And you can see as we go down from 11 to 6 credits, that training time tapers off, and so does your housing allowance. Keep in mind that if you're going to school full-time, half-time or less, you get no housing allowance. So if you go to school for 6 credit hours in the fall and spring semester, you don't actually receive any housing allowance. Your training time, as I said, is rounded to the nearest 10%, and the MHA is always paid at the E5 with dependence rate at the main campus zip code. Regardless of whether you were in E1, you're E8, you had dependents, or you didn't have dependents, maybe you lived in the barracks, every veteran gets the same MHA allowance. And here you can see the local rates for those, for local cities in Massachusetts. We're just going to go through a quick example of how MHA may be calculated. We're going to say this veteran goes to UMass Boston, and based on that zip code, the maximum benefit per month is $3,000.24. For their time in service, we're going to say they only served 30 months on active duty, so they are 90% eligible for their VA benefits. For their enrollment level, we're going to say that they've taken 3 classes, which comes out to 9 credits, which if we do a little math, we can figure out is 75% enrollment, which, as I said, gets rounded up to the nearest tenth. So they're going to have an 80% enrollment level. To calculate it, we just take all three of these numbers, the 3,024 max benefit times the 90% eligibility times the 80% enrollment, and what the veteran can get per month from MHA is $2,177.28 per month. It's important to know how this works just because where you go to school, how long you served, and how many classes you're taking determines what your individual situation is going to be and what the VA is going to pay you per month. A lot of times veterans think, oh, if I go to school in Boston, I'm always going to get that $3,024 per month. It doesn't work like that, and it's dependent on these variables that we've covered here. If you're someone who's going to go to school strictly for online learning, the nationwide online MHA rate is $916.50. This is, regardless of whether you're going to school in Boston, New York, or Louisiana, Wisconsin, doesn't matter. Anywhere you go, you're going to get the same rate. And again, you have to be enrolled at more than half-time, because once you hit half-time, you don't receive the housing allowance. What I like to let veterans know is if they're thinking about going to online learning and they would like to still try and receive that higher rate, that full 3,024, if you can find a way to attend one class in person, you're actually entitled to the entire rate. So for a veteran who may go to UMass, it may be taking that English class on a Tuesday night where they have to go to campus, but then they take their other three courses online, synchronously or asynchronously. That them getting to campus once per week alone will entitle them to the full rate. Additionally, this online rate is not impacted by COVID. So if you were taking classes, or if you're going to take classes in the fall in person, but maybe COVID forces you back online, you can still get the in-person rate if the classes were forced online due to COVID. It doesn't go the other way though. If you were already taking online classes and COVID happened, you're still online, you can't now ask for the $3,024 rate. So we're going to go through the next two benefits a little bit quicker because they are a little bit simpler. We're going to go to the Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill. The general requirements for this GI Bill, a lot of you may be familiar with. This is the GI Bill you likely signed up for in your initial entry training, where you opted to pay $100 per month for 12 months. And then upon separating from the military, you get the Montgomery GI Bill. This GI Bill does have a 10-year expiration timeframe, and it's actually phasing out in 2030. Simply because more people are using the post 9/11 GI Bill because it does generally, and in most situations, pay out more generous rates. So for service requirements, they don't have, or the Montgomery GI Bill does not have the same 100, 90, 80%, all the way down to 50 that the post 9/11 has. It's a little bit simpler, and it's only broken down into two eligibility groups based on time in service. You either served 3 or more years, or you served fewer than 3 years. And that's going to make these payment rates a lot simpler. I put these up here so you can see what it looks like, but it's not important to remember the numbers. It's more important to remember the concepts. You served 3 or more years, you served fewer than 3 years. Additionally, what you may notice is that there's no book stipend, there's no housing allowance, and there's none of that stuff with the Montgomery GI Bill. This is the only payment that you get. And when you receive this payment, you as the veteran are expected to pay the school the tuition. And if you have any funds left over, you can use it for what you see fit, whether it be housing, food, whatever it is. With that, we're going to hop into the last benefit that we're going to cover in the first section. It's Chapter 31, Veterans Readiness and Employment, which was formerly referred to as VOC Rehab. The general requirements to qualify for VRE are you must have an other than dishonorable discharge, you must have a 10% disability, service-connected or higher, and you must have a significant employment handicap. Under VRE, all of your books, fees, supplies, and tuition are covered by the program. So whether you're going to community college, or if they approved you for an expensive school like Northeastern, everything will be covered. There's a first basic eligibility, and it starts from the day that you separate from active duty, and it ends 12 years later. However, you can reset this eligibility period if you are notified that you have received a service-connected disability. So say you separated in 2012, Generally, your basic eligibility would end in 2024. However, you got a notice that you applied for service-connected disability in 2020, that'll now reset. Again, these rates, I put them on here so you could see what they look like, but it's more important to remember the concept. And additionally, VRE is a little different from the other ones because they actually pay you a different rate based on how many dependents you have. The last thing I'll say about VRE is that if you are someone who's eligible for post 9/11 and you opt to use VRE, you can actually receive the higher post 9/11 rate as long as you have 1 day of entitlement left on your GI Bill. The biggest thing and the biggest piece of advice I like to give people who are thinking about applying for VRE, VRE is similar to both GI Bills we covered in the sense that they can help you go to school. However, VRE is not an entitlement. The post 9/11 GI Bill and the Montgomery GI Bill you earn by virtue of serving and signing that contract and doing your time, getting that honorable discharge. VRE, on the other hand, is an employment program at its core, and you need to have that service-connected disability and you need to have an employment handicap. So it's not something just because you have a 10% service-connected disability, you automatically qualify for. You have to meet with a counselor and you have to justify to them that, hey, maybe an example is I was military police when I was on active duty, and due to my hip problems and my back problems, I can no longer perform law enforcement, which the military trained me to do, and therefore I justify retraining. So it's something to keep in mind when thinking about using VRE. So I would like to stop now to, if we can launch, I know we have another poll, and then additionally answer some questions.
Yes, I will go ahead and launch the poll, and then we've gotten some great questions. So if people want to, if anyone else has any questions that they want to drop in. So this poll is veterans receive a housing stipend when using the Montgomery GI Bill, true or false? All right, I'm going to leave that poll up for a few minutes and I will go ahead and ask Nick the first few questions we've gotten. So Nick, one question we got from the audience is, do they assist in paying for police and fire academies?
So if you are eligible for, the post 9/11 GI Bill or the Montgomery GI Bill, you can use that GI Bill to, attend a police or fire academy, or even beyond that, you could actually get paid in a similar manner to both GI Bills for doing on-job training. It is kind of a process, and it's usually a little bit more time-consuming to get set up, simply because you'll find all local colleges and universities are already approved by the VA. However, if you wanted to do on-job training at a local police department, you would have to reach out to the state approving agency in Massachusetts, which if you need some information on, I'd be happy to work with you offline. But you'd reach out to them and they would help you fill out the paperwork with the the police supervisor or fire supervisor to make it an approved site. Police and fire academies, they're generally, you'll find most of them are already approved by the state, but if they're not, it would be something that you'd have to, again, go through the Mass State Approving Agency and make them an approved site.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. Our next question is, do you help find real estate in-person classes for veterans in Massachusetts?
Yeah, we can absolutely help you with that. While I haven't personally helped a veteran find a real estate class yet, hopefully you'd be the first one. We have helped veterans find, other, not as commonly used, ways to use their benefits or just in general change their career or get into a program. We've helped veterans. We helped a veteran, last year who was a carpenter in the Army and he wanted to continue to do that and use his GI Bill while he did it. So we helped him find a carpentry apprenticeship in Dorchester and, got him set up with that. So we can absolutely help you find a real estate program.
That's great. Our next question is, how do they calculate the credit hours for grad school under the 9/11 GI Bill to determine full-time student status? Most grad degrees are 36 credit hours and full-time is 3 courses per semester. So
to answer it a little broadly, the 12 credits is a rule of thumb. However, there are some undergrad programs that do have, different ways of what they consider full-time. The VA doesn't determine what your status is, your school does. So the best point of contact would be your school certifying official at the school you're at or the school you want to go to. I could tell you at Suffolk University for our grad program, I believe, I don't remember the exact amount, but depending on your program, 9 credits may be full time. So it's something that only your school certifying official unfortunately could answer. But if you'd like assistance contacting them, we do work closely with a lot of the schools in the area. So we'd be more than happy to help coordinate that.
Great, thank you. That's all we have for questions for right now, but please feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A throughout the remaining time in the webinar. So now I'm going to go ahead and share the poll questions. So 78% said false and 22% said true.
Well, 78% were correct. So that's good to know that, the majority of the people grasp the concept of because that's a key difference between the 2 major GI bills. So that's good to hear that people understand that. So now that we just went through that really text and numbers heavy VA education benefits overview, to try and really hammer it home a little bit more, we're going to go through a quick comparison, and we're going to use 2 different examples. So for the first example, we're going to use a pretty common situation. The school is going to be UMass Boston. The student's going to be going to school full time, which at UMass is 12 credits. They served for 3 years, so they're 100% eligible. And to keep it somewhat simple, we're going to say they're only going to school in the fall and the spring, which comes out to approximately 8 months. And for Rehab, VR&E purposes, they don't have any dependents. So for post 9/11, the tuition is going to be $14,613 that the VA pays automatically to the school. For books, the veterans, since they're 100% eligible, they're eligible to receive $1,000 per year. And for housing allowance, again, since they're 100% eligible and going to school full time, they're eligible for that full $3,024 per month, which if we multiply it by the 8 months they're in school, comes out to about $24,000. And when we add all this up, the total annual value of this GI Bill is going to be just shy of $40,000. Keep in mind that about $25,000 of it is paid to you, and that's the housing allowance in the books, because again, the tuition is already paid to the school on your behalf by the VA. For the Montgomery GI Bill, remember what I said about there's only one GI Bill payment under Montgomery. There's no tuition payment, there's no books payment. It's just an across the board stipend that you have to pay the school with, you pay for your books for it, and you pay your rent with. For this veteran situation, they're eligible for that $2,122 per month times that 8 months, and it's going to come out to just shy of $17,000 over the course of the year. And all of that is paid to the veteran. But keep in mind, before we get to the last slide, that the veteran still has to pay the tuition at UMass. For VR&E, again, similar to post 9/11, the tuition is already paid on your behalf to the school, that full $14,000 and some change. And remember what I said about everything being covered under VR&E. So we can't quite quantify what the books value is, but just keep in mind that the VA will pay for all of your books. For the stipend, based on their eligibility and having no dependents, they'll receive $653 per month times the 8 months. And if we do some quick math, we'll see that the annual value is the $20,644 plus the books. Of this, $5,231 is paid to the veteran. So here, we are now going to, we have the annual values across the top, what's paid to the vet, and then less the tuition. Keep in mind that under post 9/11 and VR&E, the tuition is actually already paid to the school on your behalf. So as you can see with post 9/11, of those net payments of $25,000, that's for the veteran to pay their rent, pay for books, pay for any other fees and whatnot. So it's a pretty generous program. However, if we contrast it with the Montgomery GI Bill, of that just shy of $17,000 that they're paid, they still have to pay UMass the tuition of $14,613, leaving them with $2,363 throughout the year. Around here, that's pretty much a standard rent. So Montgomery GI Bill in this situation is not as lucrative as the post 9/11 GI Bill. And then for VR&E, you could see it's a little similar to post 9/11 in this example. So we're going to do one more quick comparison. This time, the veterans are going to be going to school at Quincy College. where they charge $236 per credit. For enrollment, they're going to school part-time at 25% because they're taking 3 credits per semester. Keep in mind that's 3 credits in the fall, 3 in the spring. Their eligibility level is going to be 100% like the last example. And for VR&E purposes, just to make it a little different, they're going to have 2 dependents. So under the post 9/11 GI Bill, if we do a little quick math, we take that 236 times 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. The tuition is going to come out to $1,416 total. For books, they're going to get paid $250 per year based on their enrollment rate and how many credits they've taken. And remember, veterans who go to school half-time or less actually don't receive a housing allowance under post 9/11. So they're not going to get any MHA throughout the year. That's going to bring the total value throughout the year to $1,666. And of that, the $250 book stipend is paid to the veteran because the school, again, pays the tuition directly. Under the Montgomery GI Bill, again, remember, there's no tuition and books payment. You only receive that Montgomery GI Bill payment based on your eligibility and your enrollment level. And for this veteran, they're going to receive $530.50 per month times the 8 months. We do some quick math. It comes out to $4,244, which is all paid to the veteran. And with that, they will have to pay tuition. Under VR&E, again, the tuition's already paid on your behalf by the VA. The VA is going to pay for all your books. And the stipends with these dependents and their rate of pursuit, they're going to receive $239 per month times 8 months. And the total value is going to be $3,331 plus whatever their books comes out to. So in this scenario, the payments look a little different. Because under post 9/11, the veteran doesn't receive a housing allowance because they're only going to school, part-time. They're not going to be left over with much money for rent and housing allowance and whatnot. However, under the Montgomery GI Bill, you'll see that after we subtract the tuition of $1,416 from the amount that they're paid, they're left over with some extra cash. And then the same thing for VR&E. The reason that I do these 2 examples is because there's a misconception that the post 9/11 is better in every way for every veteran in their situation. And while if you're a veteran who's going to school full time, especially in a high cost of living area like Boston, post 9/11 generally will be better. There are still situations where the Montgomery GI Bill may be better for you, specifically when you're going to school part-time and you're not going to qualify for a housing allowance under post 9/11 anyways. So it's just important. I think the thing that we really want to hammer home with these 2 examples is every veteran situation is different. Don't take your buddies who you served with, take their word and say you got to always do post 9/11. Depending on how often you're going to school, where you live, and how long you served, it's going to make your payouts from the VA unique and individual to you. So talk to someone, at Veterans Upper Bound, talk to your school, veteran resource officer, and make sure that you're using the best VA benefit for you. So I'm going to stop here and I see we have 2 questions.
Yes. So the first question is, if you realize you may have gotten paid incorrectly under Montgomery, is there any way to double check and get the remaining amount?
Yeah. So if you think you've been paid, incorrectly under the Montgomery GI Bill, as with actually any of the programs, you'd have to contact the VA and the GI Bill hotline, which I can provide at the end of this presentation. But they would be the ones who you would initiate a claim through. It would benefit you to, prior to calling them, having supporting documentation. So just under Montgomery. So for an example, if they paid you at 50% rate or whatever it would be, and you actually were going full time, or you enrolled in a class late, but they continued to pay you incorrectly, it would benefit you to have the transcripts directly from your school so that you could show the VA so that they can help correct it. Additionally, this is also something that your school certifying official should be holding your hand on as well, because again, they are the go-between between you and the VA.
That's good to know. Thank you. And we will provide that information in the chat. And then tomorrow we'll send a follow-up email with all of these links. So you'll get it then. And then our next question is there a cap on the Montgomery?
So, the general eligibility that most veterans who qualify, or with post 9/11 and Montgomery, the cap is 36 months. That's your basic eligibility for completing your contract, getting the honorable discharge is 36 months, which technically or usually breaks down to a 4-year degree, because generally you go to school for about 9 months per year. However, there is a VA cap on education benefits of 48 months. However, the only way you would see it is if you were to transfer from Montgomery to VRE if you qualified. And there's actually other ways to get to the 48-month limit and get an extra 12 months from the VA. However, the scenarios are very individual, unique, specific. And if it's something that you'd like to explore, I could certainly work with you one-on-one outside of this webinar.
Great, thank you. And our next question is, how many GI Bills can you use?
So this one actually, that's a great time for this question as well, because that kind of builds off something I was kind of just hinting at. But the general rule of thumb is when you use your post 9/11 GI Bill specifically, it's an irrevocable decision. So when you separate from the military, say you paid into the Montgomery GI Bill, but you separated and you want to use post 9/11. When you apply online, the VA will be very, very clear that this is an irrevocable decision. So at that point, that's the only GI Bill you can use. However, if you were to go the other way and use your Montgomery GI Bill, there actually was a lawsuit 2 or 3 years ago where the VA, I guess the wording they used and how you can only use one GI Bill didn't apply to Montgomery. So technically you can actually use 36 months of Montgomery and then actually get 12 months of post 9/11. We don't see that too often in Boston simply because the way that post 9/11 and Montgomery pay out is so different. So people usually don't bother. But that's the short answer on that. If you think, Jonathan, that you may be able, qualify for that situation, please reach out. We'd like to help you out with that. The only thing I want to add on top of that before we move on is that remember that VRE is not a GI Bill. So if you are someone who's using Chapter 30 or 33, and even if you have 15 months left on it, you determine that you may be a good candidate for VRE, as long as you have some entitlement left on your GI Bill, you can apply to VRE and continue to receive funding.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. So the last 5 sections that we have are a lot shorter and a lot less text heavy. So thank you everyone for bearing through that with me, but we're going to move right on into other GI Bill benefits. So the Forever GI Bill was an amendment to the post 9/11 GI Bill that was passed in 2017. The biggest change that it brought was that 15-year time limit removal if you were discharged on or after January 1st, 2013. It also created the Vet Tech program, which is Veterans Education through Technology Education courses, which is a really cool program that allows veterans who have some of their post 9/11 GI Bill left to apply for these short-term in-demand certificates in IT and other different technology courses. And what's great about it is you can continue to receive a housing allowance, but not actually use up your benefits. So if that's something anyone's interested in, please reach out. The Forever GI Bill also created the 9-month STEM extension program. So if you're a veteran who's studying in science, technology, engineering, and math, you may qualify for this, and we're going to cover it a little bit later on. Another big change was a change to loophole that a lot of veterans were taking advantage of, where they were receiving housing allowance at their school's main campus while taking classes in a lower cost of living area. So the VA changed it to make sure that you as the veteran are getting paid in accordance with the zip code where you are physically taking classes. And additionally, if your school closed due to any reason, whether they financial reasons or they were not certified or they lost their accreditation, you could actually receive back entitlement. So I touched on earlier on when we talked about public and private schools and how the post 9/11 pays out, or how the VA pays out with this program. The way that veterans can cover out-of-state private or graduate tuition that's in excess of that $25,000 cap is the Yellow Ribbon program. It's a great program that I've used, and I can attest to the greatness of it. It really allows you to, it opens up the amount of schools that you can choose from. There are some requirements. Unfortunately, you have to be using post 9/11 and you have to be 100% eligible. So if you served 35 months and 10 days, you're 20 days short of being 100% eligible. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to use the Yellow Ribbon program. You'd also qualify if you were a Purple Heart recipient after 9/11, or if you served 60 continuous days after 9/11 with a service-connected discharge. It's really important that this is not something that you can go to this private school and say, I want to use the Yellow Ribbon program to fund the rest of my tuition. Your school must already have an existing contract with the VA, so they must have already opted in. And additionally, each school gets to set their own cap on how much they will pay and how many students they'll fund. So that's important because a lot of schools will advertise that they're Yellow Ribbon friendly. However, it's important to know, are they funding unlimited amount of students, 100 students, or 5 students? It's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to go through a quick example. This tuition's, we're going to say this private school charges $40,000 per year. Remember that the maximum that a VA will pay to a private school is just north of $25,000. And that's going to leave you as the veteran with a tuition liability, a tuition bill of $14,838. However, in this situation, this school is a Yellow Ribbon school, and they've decided we're going to fund, to the maximum amount that we need to, and we'll fund every veteran. So essentially what their contract with the VA allows them to do is they say, we'll pay half, so they'll pay $7,419, and the VA is obligated to pay the other half, leaving you as a veteran with $0 in tuition liability. So that's a really great program because it opens up the amount of schools that you can go to, and it really broadens your options. However, I do just want to reiterate again that each institution does set their own limit on how many students they allow to use it and the amount that they'll pay on your behalf. And we'll see that in this example. The top of this is the same. The veteran's left with $14,838. But this school decides, yeah, we're going to participate in the Yellow Ribbon program, but we'll only contribute, I shouldn't say only, but we'll cap our contribution to each student at $5,000 per veteran. That's also, again, it's going to, the VA will be obligated to match their contribution. So when they both pay $5,000, it's going to take $10,000 off that tuition liability, and it's going to leave you as the veteran with $4,838 due throughout that year in tuition. What I would tell veterans is look for the schools that do max funding and fund the max amount of students, just because it can often be a little difficult to, it can be, can build some anxiety, and it can be difficult to continue to secure that slot at your school's, in your school's Yellow Ribbon program if they're only funding 5 students. There are some schools in Boston that participate and unfortunately only fund a handful. So it's just important to keep in mind and do this math and figure out what your tuition liability is going to be, and if you're comfortable with that before committing to a school, because we'd hate to see a veteran go to one of these schools and we know that they have Yellow Ribbon, but they're only going to fund 5 students, and now you didn't make the cut because maybe you enrolled late, and you're stuck with nearly $15,000 in tuition liability. All right, so I'm going to stop and see if we have any questions again real quick.
No questions.
Excellent. All right, so now we're going to head into section 4, which is non-VA veterans education benefits, to include National Guard and state veterans benefits. So we're going to start with the National Guard tuition waiver. The National Guard tuition waiver is a lot more straightforward than most of the VA programs. It provides a 100% tuition and fee waiver for eligible service members. In order to qualify, you have to be actively serving in the National Guard. You must have been accepted to a Massachusetts state school. So, any of the UMass campuses, Bridgewater, Salem State, community colleges. You have to have completed less than 130 semester credit hours, and something that's different from VA programs, you have to be have a GPA maintenance in accordance with those university standards. We don't work too often with National Guard members, just typically because most units already have a point of education, a point of contact, for education. However, if you are someone serving the Guard and you would like some assistance, we'd be more than happy to help you access these benefits. We're going to move on to the Massachusetts Veterans In-State Tuition Waiver. Again, this is a waiver that allows veterans who are eligible to go to state schools and community colleges. For eligibility, you just have to have an honorable discharge and you have to have served more than 6 months on active duty. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, this is actually the top of the form that you would fill out. And it's something, we've helped veterans access this, but when it comes down to it, this is actually a program that you, your school's financial aid office, and your veteran resource officer at your school coordinate with the state. So we can give you some great info on how it works. It's pretty straightforward, but when it comes down to it, it's something that after you're accepted to your school, you have to let your veteran resource officer and the school financial aid office know that you intend to apply for your Mass Veterans and State Tuition Waiver. So just have your DD 214 ready so that you can get this tuition waiver and get your education. So I mentioned a few minutes ago the STEM extension for post 9/11 GI Bill recipients only. This is extra benefits that are extended to students who are studying at some of these in-demand degrees. The reason that this was created by the Forever GI Bill was that these fields usually require more credit hours than traditional bachelor's degrees. Veterans who are pursuing an engineering degree were finding that the 36 months that they're entitled to didn't actually bring them to the completion of their degree, and their benefits were exhausted prior. So this was a really nice program that the VA that they implemented to help veterans specifically in these degrees get an extra 9 months of benefits. Here's the requirements for undergrads. Unfortunately, if you're going for a grad school, you won't qualify. You have to be in pursuing a STEM degree. You have to have only completed between 60 and 90 credits towards your degree, which makes the timing a little bit tricky sometimes for veterans, because you may not think of the STEM extension until you're in your senior year and you only have 12 credits left. So it's something that when you're going through your degree audit, working with your counselor, you're going to go in excess of 120. Think about the STEM extension in your sophomore, junior year, and apply for it early so you can get it. Additionally, you have to be within 180 days of exhausting your post 9/11 benefit, and the degree has to require at least 120 credit hours. Another thing to keep in mind is this program cannot be used with yellow ribbon. So let's say the first 4 years of your degree, you were going to Suffolk University and you were a recipient of the yellow ribbon program, so you've had no tuition liability. When you apply for the STEM extension and use it the day after your benefits are exhausted, no longer can Suffolk University and the VA allow you to participate in the yellow ribbon program. So it will leave you with a tuition liability. However, on the other hand, they're still going to fund you for an extra $25,000 per year. You'll just have to make up the difference. Another great program for any veterans using any of the programs, post 9/11, Montgomery, VRNE, is the VA Work Study Program. It's pretty similar to the federal work study program that you apply for through Fafsa, but it's specifically for veterans, and specifically you have to work in VA facilities or with veteran resources at your school. I was someone who benefited greatly from the VA Work Study Program. That's actually where I started my journey with Veterans Upward Bound in early 2019. I started with them doing the work study stuff, and then from there it opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It allowed me to get a job upon graduation. So it's a door opener, and it's a great way to earn some money while you learn. You have to be enrolled at least 3 quarters or more, which again, like I said earlier, is dependent on what your school standards are. You earn the higher of federal or state minimum wage, which if you're in Massachusetts, you'll be entitled to $13.50 per hour. You can work up to 25 hours per week, and it's all untaxed income. Here's just a quick example of how this may work. If you work 25 hours per week for a 15-week semester, at that rate, you could make $5,000 over the course of a semester. I'd like to let veterans know that this is money that in the months that you're not in school, you're not getting a housing allowance, no MHA. It could be a lifesaver. It could help you pay rent, pay for groceries, and just allow you to enjoy your time off and not feel panicked because you have to get a job in the summertime, which obviously if you want to work, you can work, but it's nice. It allows you to put a little money away from the time that you're not receiving money from the VA to go to school. So next we're going to go into FAFSA, and I believe we have a poll here.
Yes, we do. I will go ahead and launch the poll, and then we have a few questions from our audience. So this question is, have you ever applied for or received benefits through FAFSA? Yes or no? So we have two great questions. How competitive is the Yellow Ribbon program?
How competitive? I can tell you that it can be competitive. So there are some schools in the Boston area. I believe Boston University is one of them where they fund, I want to say it's only like 5 or a handful of veterans. And you can imagine with how big Boston University is that, it's going to be really tough to secure that funding. They may offer you other scholarships to make up the difference, but it can be really competitive. On the other hand, a school like Suffolk, they fund 125 veterans, and I don't think they ever actually come close to hitting that full amount. So it's not competitive there. It's something that really does vary from school to school. And if you'd like to touch base offline, we can, I could definitely go through the schools with you, and we can actually find out how many they fund and how much they'll pay. And we'll give you an idea of how competitive they are.
Good to know. Thank you. And the next question is, does the Massachusetts National Guard waiver pay for PhD programs?
I'm 99% sure that it does. I believe as long as you're meeting that those eligibility requirements that we covered, that it should pay for it. However, that's something that since we don't work too much with the Guard, I just put it in here because we do occasionally come across a Guards member. That's something that I could definitely get back to you on to make sure that they do pay for PhD programs.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share the poll. 67% of our audience has applied for FAFSA and 33% have not.
Excellent. So that's good to hear, because often we meet veterans and they don't want to apply for FAFSA simply because they got 100% GI Bill, or they, Montgomery GI Bill, or they got approved for VR&E where all their tuition fees and all that's paid for. However, there's still some benefit to applying for FAFSA, and specifically there are things that veterans need to know about filling out their FAFSA as well. So as I just said, FAFSA benefits, you can receive federal loans, grants such as the well-known Pell Grant, and you can also apply for federal work study. As I just said, veterans should apply to FAFSA even if their tuition is 100% covered. This is because based on your taxable income, FAFSA, the federal government may determine that you're eligible for a Pell Grant, which is money that does not have to be repaid. And this is money that, say you're in one of those STEM degrees and you have expensive lab fees, expensive books, and it's in excess of that post 9/11 GI Bill book stipend. That's money that can help you, pay for those books. Additionally, kind of going back to what I said about the VA work study program and that money helping to support you while you're not in school, those months you're not getting a housing allowance, the Pell Grant can do that same thing. It could be money that, I know I got rent money now for August, and then in September, I'm going to get my housing allowance, so I know I'm good for the summer. It's money that, can really be a lifesaver if you're eligible. The max amount you can receive in the upcoming year is $6,495. That doesn't mean you're going to get that. You could get much less, but I'm not the one who makes that decision, but they'll determine based on your taxable income and your dependents and all that, what you're eligible for. So we bring up, student loans just because there are situations where a veteran may need to take out a student loan. Maybe it's because, they're only eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill, and maybe they're going to an expensive school. Maybe they're a veteran who's 50% eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill, so the tuition's not, fully covered. Or maybe you're, a veteran who's going into that PhD program, and you know well ahead of time that your 36 months of benefit from post 9/11 or the Montgomery GI Bill is going to be exhausted by that. It's important to know some key differences between types of loans, because when you get your first, financial aid package from the school, you're going to be probably overwhelmed and say, wait, what are all these student loans? I didn't, accept these. You don't have to accept anything that they offer you. It's simply, what you were offered. But on the chance you do need to take out a student loan, it's important to know the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. For a subsidized loan, the government's going to pay the interest. Generally, I believe it's if you're full-time while you're enrolled in school. That's, interest that's not compounding for the 4 years that you're in school. It's going to save you a lot of money over the lifetime of the loan and your career, your education path. For an unsubsidized loan, the day that they're dispersed, they're going to start accruing interest. So at the end of that 4 years, there's going to be a lot more interest on top of that principal amount that you borrowed. So given the choice, if you are offered both, always try and take the subsidized loan first if you can. Additionally, with Fafsa, we have some veteran-specific tips. A lot of times when we work with vets, they're confused about what VA benefits do I put on my application. Generally, what we like, the easy way to remember it is you do not report any VA education benefits. So any post 9/11 housing allowance, tuition, books, Montgomery GI Bill, any VR&E stuff, you don't report it as income. That does trip a lot of folks up and often disqualifies them if they put it down from getting Pell Grants and whatnot. You do, on the other hand, report all other VA benefits. This does include VA disability. A lot of people say that, a lot of people have tried to argue with that, like, no, you don't have to do it, it's untaxed income. It is true, it is untaxed income, but for FAFSA purposes, you are required to report it specifically in box 44G, which is titled Veterans Non-Education Benefits. If anyone has any questions about this, I'd be more than happy to point you in the direction of the legislation that does require you to report this. All right, so I don't think we have any questions right now. So I'm going to move on to section 6, which is veteran scholarships. Now, I'm not going to pull up a big, Excel sheet of scholarships just because if we did that, we'd be here all day, going through them all, and it would just be very overwhelming. Instead, I just want to let veterans know that there is a wide range of, veteran and military-specific scholarships that are, open and have, that open up and close, throughout the year. So these scholarships do take a lot of legwork. You often have to, write an essay, send them your resume, and often you have to. The scholarship opportunity will be specific to a particular military branch and operation. The ones that I seem to see a lot, there seems to be a lot of scholarships for like veterans who are in the Army Corps of Engineers or a specific Marine battalion or whatnot. But they are worth it if you're willing to put in the work. It could help you fund the gap if you don't have all of your tuition covered, or if it's refundable. Again, it could be something that may help you out in the summer months when you're not enrolled in school. If you're a veteran who's looking to explore scholarship opportunities, we have some of them on vubma.com. Or if you'd like to work one-on-one with myself or my counterpart Jen on exploring what ones might be good for you, please reach out and we'd be more than happy to help you identify some scholarship opportunities. And do I see a question? Nope, I got something in the chat. Okay, cool. So we're going to move on to our last section, which is section 7, other tips and info. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give to veterans using their VA education benefits is to join your SVA, the Student Veterans of America. Not every school has one, but a lot of them do. They do excellent work on behalf of student veterans. In fact, when COVID hit and everyone was sent home to learn online, people were very nervous about, am I still going to get my full housing allowance, or am I going to be reduced to that $917 per month? If that were to happen, a lot of veterans would have been, there's a good chance they would have dropped out because now they can't make rent. They have to try and find work. You can't collect unemployment while you're using the benefits. So at least in Massachusetts. So SVA fought on behalf of student veterans to convince the VA and convince Congress that in-person payment should continue due to COVID-19. And they successfully got that extended through December 31st, 2021. So they do great work. Please get involved with them. Additionally, beginning on August 1st of this year, there's going to be a new dual certification of benefits for all programs. There are some programs right now, like I believe with Montgomery, your school certifies you, but you also have to certify your attendance. So some of them already do this. However, with post 9/11 and VR&E, the school does it on your behalf, and under VR&E, your counselor does it on your behalf. So the veteran just has to let the school know they're going to school, and then they let the VA know. However, beginning in August, there's going to be that dual certification. So be on the lookout for that, on what the instructions are for that. As far as I've seen, the VA has not released, where you got to do that, when you got to do it, how you do it, like a lot of things that the VA releases, but just something to keep in mind, regardless of whether you're starting school in September or you're already in school and you'll still be in school in the fall. The last tip I want to give veterans is if you find yourself in an unfortunate situation of maybe in between a D and an F in a class and you don't know if you're going to fail or pass, talk to someone before you withdraw. Talk to your Division of Student Success at your school, talk to your financial aid office, talk to the school certifying official and the veteran resource officer. I say this because there are situations where as long as you're attending class and you're trying and your professor can vouch for you on that, it would be better to not withdraw from the class. This is because the VA will pay for you to retake that class so that you can remove that F from your transcript and get a better grade. Additionally, by withdrawing from your class, at the end of your semester, your school certifying official will have to let the VA know that your enrollment changed. So let's say you went from 12 credits at full-time down to 6 because there was 2 classes you weren't doing too hard in. You were now dropped down to half-time, which doesn't allow you to get a housing allowance. At the end of the semester, the VA is going to re-examine your particular case and determine that you were not entitled to a housing allowance through that whole semester. And that's could be a substantial bill over $12,000 depending on your situation. So we don't want to encourage anyone to take a class and fail. But if you are in that situation, make sure to talk to someone, reach out to your financial aid office, reach out to us at Veterans Upward Bound. We can help you make the best decision for you financially and for your education. So I want to end it with a big picture breakdown. Generally, if you're in Massachusetts, Boston especially, and you're wishing to pursue a 4-year degree and you want to go to school full-time, you'll receive a greater benefit from post 9/11. The VA is going to pay that tuition directly, and you're going to get about $25,000 per year for books and housing. Like I just said, the full-time students benefit because of that large housing allowance that really dwarfs the Montgomery one. In a high cost of living area, which everywhere in New England pretty much is, post 9/11 generally superior. However, there are places where, parts of the country that have a low cost of living, where the Montgomery may be superior. And again, that just brings me back to the point that I've been making throughout this webinar, that your situation is unique to you. So make sure you talk to someone, talk to Veterans Upward Bound, and make sure you're using the right benefit. And yeah, I just took the words right out of my own mouth. Every veteran's situation is unique based on your service, your enrollment rate, where you're going to school. It's going to affect your benefit. And really quickly, if you don't mind, Christine, I want to stop sharing so I can share something that the VA just released that I didn't have time to put into the presentation, but I would like to bring it up to any veterans who may be eligible. There we go. So this is a program that the VA had used before, but they've just refunded. It's called Vrap. It's Veteran Rapid Retraining Assistance Program. If you're between 22 and 66 years old, unemployed because of the pandemic, not permanently and totally disabled, and not already using any of these programs right here, you could be eligible to receive up to 12 months of tuition and fees and the post 9/11 monthly housing allowance stipend. So if this is something that you think you may qualify for, please reach out. We can help you out with it. The VA says it's available through the end of next year, but they are going to only fund 17,250 veterans. So if you think that you'd be a good fit for that program, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to help you explore that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick, for all of that information. I know we got a question about the email. There it is. We will also send this out, but Nick, thank you so much for taking the time on such an important topic and breaking it down. I think it's really nice to see the numbers, but please, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Veterans Upward Bound. I also am going to go ahead and launch an exit poll. This is just feedback to continue our programming and make edits and get your feedback. And also I wanted to let folks know that this is our last Money Talk Tuesday for the summer. We will be working throughout the summer to create some new programs, new webinar topics throughout the fall. So if you saw a topic throughout the last year and a half, or a topic you haven't seen yet that you'd like our office to present on, please reach out to us at moneytalk@tre.state.ma.us. And Nick, I don't know if you have any last or final remarks you want to give to the audience.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's in attendance today. Thank you to the Office of Economic Empowerment for having us. And again, if you're a veteran who has any questions about your VA education benefits, please reach out. It could be, one call, we talk 15 minutes to make sure you understand it. Or, it could be something where we're working with you one-on-one for, a few weeks to make sure that you're set up for success when you move on to your post-secondary education.
Well, thank you again, Nick, and thank you, Veterans Upward Bound, for sharing all this information. But please reach out to our office if you have any questions, and please reach out to Veterans Upward Bound, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. And let your people and your networks know about this, about Veterans Upward Bound, and spread the word about all the great work they are doing. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. For those in Massachusetts, I hope you're staying cool in this heat wave, and enjoy. Thank you all, and thank you, Nick and Kate.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.